What's going on, everybody? American Football Network here today, and today we're bringing you our Clemson Tigers preview prediction video. But before we get started, make sure you guys like and subscribe. Comment your thoughts and opinions down below. Help me hit that goal of 900 subscribers by the end of June. Currently, as I'm making this video, we're 882, so we're 18 away. Got a few more days left to go, so make sure you guys help me out with that. Also, comment your thoughts and opinions down below on what you think Clemson's record is going to be and why you think that will be. Check out the description for links to our podcast, website, and our college football roundup channel. Also, if you're interested in supporting our channel, check out our Patreon page. Our PayPal, Cash App, and Venmo links are also in there. All that money is going to be put back into the channel. And also, you can join our channel. The link should be in the description. You can also find that on the channel homepage to get exclusive perks and benefits for our channel. So, yeah, check all that stuff out. But let's go ahead and get started with today's video. So, Clemson last year, 11-3, 9-0 in the ACC, counting the ACC championship win over North Carolina, 39-10. They won some close games. They beat Wake Forest on the road, 51-45. In double overtime, beat NC State 30-20. Game day was at that one. They won on the road at Florida State 34-28. Although that game was a lot more favored towards Clemson than the scoreboard shows in the end. Then the Syracuse game, they won 27-21. Let's see, they lost to South Carolina 31-30. And then they lost in the bowl game to Tennessee 31-14. That one wasn't really a close one. But they do return 7 starters on offense, 8 on defense, and they get some big, talented guys to fill in those spots on defense. Also in this book, and I'm using the Athlon book for the rosters and the depth chart, it has Xavier Thomas not listed as a returning starter, although he's definitely starting caliber. So I would say 9 for the defense. And then the 2 that don't return is Wade Woodaz replacing Trenton Simpson and Justin Maskell replacing KJ Henry. They bring in some big recruits defensively with Peter Woods, Stephalion Green, Jamal Anderson, Kobe McLeod, and TJ Dudley. All of those guys expected to get a lot of playing time. So I'm excited to see what that defense looks like. On the offensive side, they return receivers Bo Collins, Antonio Williams, and Adam Randall. At the offensive line, they just lose Jordan McFadden, but he will be replaced by Tristan Lee. Klubnik going to be the quarterback now. Jake Brenningstool at tight end, and Will Shipley and Phil Moffa, the two-headed monster at running back. So Clemson does bring a lot of talented pieces in at the on the offense, not really out of position, but on the offense. But let's go ahead and dive into the schedule. So week 1, this is going to be a tough matchup on the road at Duke, but I do have Clemson winning this game. But if Clemson comes out sloppy on both sides of the ball, especially defensively, Duke could potentially, get a good lead on them. I think this is going to be a very good game for about 3.5 quarters, and then I think Clemson will slowly pull away. It's probably going to be a 60-40 crowd in favor of Duke, so Clemson will have would have a good bit of fans there. I think this is one of these games that Clemson wins, 38-21, 38-24, something like that, 35-20, a game kind of like that. I think this is going to be a very fun matchup on Labor Day, and I'm excited for what happens in this game. I think it's going to be a very fun game to start the season out, and a game that Clemson definitely cannot overlook. Duke, they had a very good season last year. They have one of the top 4 quarterback in the ACC in Riley Leonard. They went 9-4 last year. It's definitely possible that they do that again. The 4 games they lost at Pitt 28-26. They lost to North Carolina 38-35, at Georgia Tech in overtime 23-20, and at Kansas 35-27. So they lost some games, 4 games last year, and all of them were 1-possession games. So I'm excited for what Duke's going to do this year. Hopefully Clemson will beat them week 1. We'll see. I think that's going to be a close game. Then they get Charleston Southern at home. I think this game is a win, obviously. I think this will be a good game after kind of a tough road matchup against Duke, a good game to kind of figure out some of the, fix some of the stuff that you did wrong in the Duke game. Just work in the offense more, try out some new things with some of the pieces you have. Get Garrett Riley more, more experience with this team and in-game action. And so I think this is, a good kind of easier game for them following the Duke game. Then they get Florida Atlantic at home. Again, I think this is a win. This game will be an 8 o'clock game in Death Valley. So the first night game of the season. And I think this is going to be a very good game for the Tigers. I think they're going to put up big numbers on offense, and Florida Atlantic is going to be held to virtually nothing, I would imagine. So I think this will be a good game for both sides of the Clemson team, both offensively and defensively, both units just getting, working the kinks out, because every team, no matter how good you are, you always have, early season kinks. You look at 2019 LSU, they're, considered as one of, if not the greatest college football teams ever, and they struggled through the first 5 or 6 games. Now, they never were really necessarily close games, but they had a lot of issues to fix and work out. So, every team, no matter how great you are, has kinks. And so, if Clemson, they get, they do go on the road at Duke to start, but then Charleston Southern and Florida Atlantic, good games to kind of work those kinks out in the offense and the defense before you get the big game, the Florida State Seminoles at home. College game day will probably be at this game. If Florida State beats LSU and Clemson beats Duke, I don't think either team really has any other question marks coming in, because LSU, before that game, other than LSU, they have Southern Miss and Boston College. So I think if both teams win the opener, they will be undefeated coming into this game at 3-0. And this is a game, again, I think that game day could be at, and I think it's going to be a good one. But I do think Clemson will get the win. It's going to be a night game for sure. So the crowd is definitely more than it, usually would have. It's going to be there and be loud, and just the energy is going to be different for the night game. And then you add in the fact that, the home field advantage, and then just Clemson was a lot better than Florida State last year, with a lot more holes in this team than I see coming into this year, considering that Klubnik performs the way most people think he will. Now, I'm sure the football expert will be in the comments because I'm sure he'll have something to say about Klubnik. Make sure you guys subscribe to him. But if considering he plays the way that he, is projected to play, and most people think he will play, they're going to be a lot better of a team than they were going to Tallahassee last year. Now, I do think Florida State is also, but to me, the biggest thing in this game is which team's weakness will outshine the other one. So we know Florida State's strength is their offense, Clemson's strength is their defense. So which plays better, Florida State's defense or Clemson's offense? That will be determined. I think that, Clemson has a little bit more on Florida State. Then you add in the fact it's a home game for Clemson. It's going to be a home environment for them. I think that Clemson gets the win here, but I think it's going to be a fun, tough, close, hard-fought game. Then they go on the road to Syracuse. I think they win this game, but as many of you people know who either follow Syracuse or Clemson, Syracuse has given Clemson a lot of trouble in the past. Clemson only beat them 27-21 at home last year. The last time they went to Syracuse with DJ, they beat them 10-7, I think it was. And then you look at Trevor's I can't remember which year it was with Trevor, but there was one of those years with Trevor where he got a concussion. That was the Chase Bryce game. So I'm pretty sure 2018. Chase Bryce game, ETN with the huge run to put us up. In that game, they almost beat us. Then you go back and you look with Kelly Bryant whenever they went to Syracuse and we lost that game. Kelly Bryant got knocked out in that one, and Zarek Cooper couldn't hit the brats out of a barb in that one. And so Syracuse has had Clemson's number a good bit the last few years, especially under Dino Babers. So this is a game to definitely watch. I think that Clemson, obviously, you got, like, if you're making a schedule prediction, you predict Clemson to win this game. But this is definitely one that Clemson could lose. Then they get Wake Forest at home. I think this is a win. If Wake Forest still had Sam Hartman, would see, because we know what happened in that game last year. Clemson was able to outlast them 51-45, but that's just because Wake Forest defense is so awful. And so this year, with no Sam Hartman for Wake Forest, they lose a lot of their big receivers. I think Clemson could potentially win this game by 30-plus points, just because Wake Forest defense is so bad. They can, like last year, the Clemson offense, people know they weren't that great, and they scored 51 points on Wake Forest, the most they scored all season. They only scored over 40 points. Let's see, 1, 2, 3 times, and that was the only time they hit 50 points was against Wake Forest, and that was at Wake Forest with Sam Hartman. They won that one 51-45 double overtime. So I think it's safe to say Clemson gets the win. I'm thinking they win by 17, 24 to 24 points, somewhere in that range is where I think they could win, but things could get bad in a hurry for Wake Forest in this game. Then they get a bye week. Then they go on the road to Miami. This will be an interesting team. Miami, we don't really know what's going to happen with them at the quarterback position either. They have Tyler Van Dyke, who 2 years ago as a freshman looked incredible. And then you have last year Tyler Van Dyke. He looked absolutely terrible, was one of the worst Power 5 quarterbacks in the country. So what really happens with that, I think the offensive line under Cristobal at Miami will be improved this year. But what really happens, I do think Clemson is the better team, and I think they will go on the road to Miami and get the win. I'm not a big fan of Miami. I think they're 7-8 win team at best, maybe 9-win team at best. I'm not a big fan of Miami in this game or coming into the season, and I'm not in Miami's favor on this side. I think Clemson gets the win. Then they go on the road to NC State. I think this is another win. NC State just loses a bunch with Devin Leary, and they lose pretty much their entire receiving core from last year, as that one's kind of dwindled down a little bit, as they had a bunch of big guys. But now the only returning starter there is Keon Lassane, who last year only had 342 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns on 31 catches. So I think NC State is definitely a beatable team. I think Clemson will get the win against NC State. But NC State, a team that has, played Clemson a little bit close. They beat them 2 years ago, only lost by 10 on the road at Clemson last year in a big game. But with no Devin Leary, we'll see how Brennan Armstrong plays for them. If he plays like he did in 2 years ago, then this game may be a little bit of trouble for Clemson. But I do think Clemson will go to Carter Finley and get revenge for their last, for the last time they were up there. Then they get Notre Dame at home. This is a big one. I think Clemson could potentially get game day twice. Florida State and Notre Dame can, if Notre Dame is undefeated going into this game or has one loss. Now that is a big if, because they have, Notre Dame does have some tough games coming into this game right here. They have a lot of big games, a lot of question marks. So we'll see what really happens with this one. But I do think Clemson will get the win. I just think that with it being a home game, I think Clemson gives them the slight advantage. I think they're going to be more prepared for this game than they were last year, getting stomped on the road at Notre Dame 35-14. I think they're going to be a little bit more prepared. I think Klubnik's going to want his revenge on Notre Dame. And even though I guess he wasn't technically the starter, but did basically throw a pick six, even though it was put in at a terrible spot, but we won't get into all that. But I do think Clemson will get the win here. I think they're a little bit of a better football team than Notre Dame is. But we'll see. Sam Hartman definitely makes Notre Dame a real threat for not just Clemson, but just the playoff conversation in general. Then they get Georgia Tech at home. I think this is a win. I think this is probably going to be the easiest conference game on their schedule. Georgia Tech is not in a very good spot at all. They're probably the worst ACC team other than Virginia. You could argue Virginia Tech, but they're definitely a bottom 3. I guess Boston College could be thrown in there too. They're definitely bottom 3, bottom 4 team though for in the ACC. So I don't think Georgia Tech's going to have a very good season. I think Clemson wins easily. Then Clemson gets North Carolina at home. I think this is a win. Same reason why I had said Wake Forest would be a blowout. I don't think this game will necessarily be a blowout, but until North Carolina gets a defense, will the national media please stop hyping them up so much? They have an awful defense, and it doesn't matter. They're not going to beat anybody. any good team, if they play a team that has a good offense and a good defense, they're not going to win. And we saw that last year when I think North Carolina may have even been favored in that ACC championship game. I can't remember. But Clemson beat them by 29 points, 39-10. It wasn't even close. Klubnik played great. So until North Carolina gets a defense, I just don't see them being able to win any of these big games. Then you have the big rivalry game. You go on the road to South Carolina. You lost a little brother last year, 31-30 to end the 7-year streak. I'm pretty sure it was. I think it was 7 games, 8 years, because 2020 they didn't play. But you go on the road to play them. South Carolina, they have been improving a good bit under now I just completely forgot his name. Shane Beamer completely left my mind, but they've been improving under Beamer. But I do think Clemson goes on the road and gets the win here against South Carolina. I think that, South Carolina, they got a lot of things to go their way last year. They won by 1 point when Clemson's quarterback had a 29% completion percentage in the game. And Antonio Williams fumbled a punt return that would have set Clemson up to kick a game-winning field goal and beat them. So a lot of things fell South Carolina's way. Now, this game will be in Williams-Brice. It will be a night game, I would imagine. So it is going to be a tough environment for Clemson to play in. But I do think at this point in the season, when you look at all the new changes around Clemson, I think they're going to be a very good team. I think they're going to be contending for the playoff again this year, and I think they will beat South Carolina. Call me a homer if you want, but I have Clemson going 12-0 overall, 8-0 in the ACC. But that wraps up today's video. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Comment your thoughts and opinions down below. Make sure you guys check out the description for all that good stuff. Help me hit that goal of 900 subscribers by the end of June. Also, check out my Clemson hype video if you haven't already. But I appreciate all you guys watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you next time.